get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride, ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and Greg Soulje is back with us today on this Friday. Welcome, Greg.
Well, welcome back to you, Sarah. Nice to be with you here on a Hip Hip Hooray Friday on another day that the calendar says October 3rd, and it's more or less like an August 3rd out across a wide area of the Plains and Corn Belt. So enjoy these summer days. There's still more to come, but a little bit of a change in the offing here over the next several days, west to east.
Little noise in my background, but I'm at World Dairy Expo here in Madison. It's been a beautiful week and really good show. So just wrapping up here today, sitting in our booth. We've been doing some broadcasts from here. So if folks want to check those out, you can go to feedstuffs.com and check out all of those, all that coverage from World Dairy Expo. But let's talk weather. Let's get those slides up here for you, Greg, and let you take it away.
All right, and we'll do just that moving forward here on this finally Friday, and it's another day's worth of warm, dry weather centered in roughly, but not exclusively, to the western Corn Belt locales where we really needed a few more days of growing degree day units and or moisture reduction and dry down values because of somewhat slower crop growth and development, at least maturation we have been talking about from time to time on the lack of significant bean leaf drop. That pace has accelerated. Unfortunately, the latest numbers we have are back from about the third week of September, but it kind of conveys the point here with a little movement beyond that date that we're in relatively improved shape with that number, although still lagging in some locales. And moving forward, some indication of maybe the more pronounced brief, and want to emphasize the brief nature of harvest delays that will be materializing in that particular part of the Corn Belt moving forward here over the next several days. There is a very subtle, short-lived pattern shift out of the Plains and Corn Belt locales. Just a brief reminder of what it should be for really early October. After that, as we've been talking about on This Week in Agribusiness, and we'll have again on this weekend show, the 4-week forecast continues to be loaded up with a lot of mild, warm days. So there's no need to push it and panic. If you do get into a couple of rainier days, so to speak, we'll certainly be done early and often here on harvest over a wide area, and probably begin to and continue to quicken the pace on winter wheat planting operations from south to north, although some delays are expected into those northern areas with time. Still some 90-degree heat expected over the far northwestern Corn Belt, northern and central Plains. That's about 15 degrees above average, almost 20 degrees above average. Again, the cooling will be pretty lackadaisical, just a return to maybe near normal temperatures briefly. And of course, this time of the year, that means some pretty wide swings as it applies to maybe some of these northern ag areas, northern livestock areas across the Dakotas, Minnesota, for example, and wouldn't be surprised that there's a little whimper of frost up in that general direction as well. Climatologically, or average speaking, it is the time of the year to begin to see that over the northernmost areas of the Plains and upper Midwest. And so it goes. We continue to move along with probably the most pronounced of the weather, by the way, expected in the northern Plains and point side westward over the next couple of days. Dry weather across the western Gulf, still some shower activity in the eastern Gulf. Summer crop harvest is certainly underway. Corn, soybeans, sorghum, cotton, what have you. No need so far, although some of the cotton fields are probably a little bit slow in getting to a point where we can put that applicant on to get those leaves to drop with high humidity, high dew points, and recurring wet weather. But the wet weather has made amends on some of the dryness and drought-related issues in the mid-Atlantic and the southeastern states, including Florida. We'll take a look at that in just a second. And then we've had a couple of brush back pitches, if you will, put it in baseball playoff terms, of some tropical weather into the areas of eastern Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia. Imelda was the latest one, and things are beginning to get a little busier, but nothing out of control, nor of a Armageddon approach. Some of these models earlier in the week were just all over creation. And I saw these things getting slapped out there on various channels and media strains, but we'll just kind of stay the course around here with regard to pretty even-keeled, warm, largely dry middle part of the country. Pacific Southwest and eastern states are the most likely to see some impact from some of these tropical systems moving forward, although I don't foresee any direct landfall hit for now. Things will tend to get steered out to sea across the open waters of the Atlantic. Some of that tropical moisture, we talked about this, we've talked about it the past few weeks. And, you know, the feds say that El Nino is over with. When we look at the real-time stuff, we don't think that's completely over with. And when you take a look at the tropics and 3 more systems off of Baja, that at minimum we're going to bring moisture northward and kind of increase the monsoon setup, including flash flood potential in the southwestern part of the country. That continues to play on out. Still a lot of drought-related issues in the Pacific Northwest, but they've had some rain out there the past week. More to come next week. Big Sky Country as well. More rain than anything versus lightning and fire potential. Although we'll take a look at the fire outlook, and it's this time of the year you get into these low afternoon humidity days, warm temperatures, a little more wind getting going on the plains and far northwestern Corn Belt over the next 2 or 3 days. And you get that hot, dry, tender vegetation and chaff, if you will, from harvest operations and contact with hotter equipment. And the technology today has done wonders in kind of preventing that and limiting it. But it does happen once in a while. So we'll keep an eye on the fire potential as it plays out over the northern plains and upper Midwest going forward. In any event, a Friday afternoon outlook that has a little upper air disturbance. And when I look at the radar right now, there are a couple of showers actually raining in the I-70 corridor east of East St. Louis. There's a couple of showers running from about Bloomington, Indiana, southward in through western Kentucky, enough to maybe barely settle the dust. And outside of that little hiccup of a weather system, it's the northwestern part of the country. And boy, the rains will continue without any tropical systems, just the right atmospheric setup to get fronts to come off, or boundaries, sea breeze and Gulf breeze fronts to come in and to keep the wet weather pattern going down through Florida. That'll be a story tonight. You can see a nice weather system for the time of year across the west and the northwestern reaches of the country. Maybe a couple of spotty showers in the far southern Corn Belt. There will be a front draped up towards the Sewell of no consequence. Turns right back around, turns into about a 20, 25 mile an hour south wind, and that'll push temperatures up and bring dew points on up. And you can see by Saturday morning a pretty good swath of moisture across the Divide country, including maybe some of the lower elevations in through Big Sky Country. And with time, and this time of the year, when you get these troughs to come on through, you start with relatively high snow levels above livestock and cattle operations, 8,000, 9,000 feet. But by the time you move these weather systems through, and as the same, there are winter storm watches that affect for parts of Colorado and Wyoming and Utah, get down to about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Sometimes you could have a little wet snow mixed in, and obviously the drop off in temperatures as well. So livestock managers in those northern and central highest of high plains areas, heads up going forward. You can see a nice blossoming of rain by tomorrow afternoon across the Dakotas, Montana, pasture lands, rangelands late in the season, but it's always nice to get some subsoil moisture going before you get into that icy, snowy, freezy stuff. No sign of that coming down south anytime soon. If you wanted to buy the models this past few days, they had snow in the parts of Iowa and Illinois, and a killing freeze and a hurricane that was stronger than anything we saw with Andrew come through the central and south parts of the Florida Peninsula and into the Gulf. That's how wide-ranging sometimes these models can be if you don't watch what you're doing. So welcome rain across the northern plains. There'll be a drop-off in temperatures, a little chill stress on livestock out in that general direction towards the Black Hills. But everyone in the eastern plains and Corn Belt locales, south wind, 15 to 20, gusts 25 miles per hour. Temperatures onwards and upwards for the day. By Sunday morning, the rains. This weather system is going to kind of what we call minor out of the weather business. It's a big upper trough as it lifts north and east. It weakens. That U-shaped configuration shrinks, so the dynamics to the storm shrink, and the surface-based weather shrinks. But you do see a little snow in the higher peaks of Idaho and Montana. A chilly rain Sunday morning out towards the Black Hills and up towards Bismarck, Bandana, north of the Canadian border. Next 48 hours, you can see the moisture across the west, the southern Canadian prairie, and we may eke out 1/10 of an inch of moisture into parts of central and southern Illinois. And the sea breeze fronts continue to bring welcome rain down through Florida. Here is the drought monitor from last Thursday. And I tell you what, despite the rains that came through some parts of northern Illinois, northern Indiana, pretty anemic in the big picture, have not made any appreciable dent at all in this dry drought-ridden weather pattern. And they were probably weeks away from getting anything of a significant, substantive, recurring basis into the plains and Corn Belt locales. So Great for harvest, not great for fire potential and all that kind of stuff. Great with outdoor work and getting the livestock areas ready to go and movement of feed and supplies and all that. Not great if you want to get, for example, anhydrous down in these warm soils for the time of year. We've had some improvement through the Dakotas, Nebraska, parts of Kansas, some work to do still through the Rio Grande, but we've made some modest improvement there. The Florida situation has incredibly improved itself either side of I-4 on southward, and the worst of the dryness and drought parts of northeast Indiana, northwest Ohio, and into the northeast of New England with that shade of red is showing extreme drought conditions. This is not going to go away anytime soon. This will be a process that gets going, and it's probably not until we get into November and more likely December. It's going to be one of these warm to dry, mild to dry, seasonal to getting wetter, to probably wetter before it turns remarkably colder. But it's going to take until a small window, November into December, and then the boost and hoof is just going to drop on us here. We'll talk a lot about that in our live stream coming up the middle part of October. There's the Midwestern perspective, dry, dusty. Keep an eye on fire potential as well from Ohio through Illinois and points on southward, much of Wisconsin, Michigan, at least northern Michigan, Minnesota, and Iowa in relatively good shape. Fire risk over the next couple of days for this afternoon, situated either side of the Black Hills and shifts into parts of the plains and northwestern Corn Belt. Be a healthy dose of wind. We haven't had much wind at all anywhere across the plains and Corn Belt locales. It's been these compressional warming or hot spells or hot high pressures that build over the middle part of the country. This is what we call a little more synoptically driven weather systems of a bigger scale, generating wind. And so we'll see some of that back along the Missouri and points westward moving forward. So the tropics are still, kind of busy out there. We've got a system that's offshore of the Bahamas and moving forward, some development east of the windward islands moving forward. And I think it's just one of these years they come out, they're either homegrown development wise, close to the southeastern shoreline or eastern states, and then they swing out to sea, one after another after another. They get absorbed in an upper level wind flow that generates wind shear or a frontal boundary. And so we may get some excitement in the Atlantic, but that's about it. The busier of the weather patterns as it applies to the Pacific or the tropics is the Pacific. 3 systems out there bear watching, and we do carry details on that on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness with, again, another week featuring maybe Southern California or east of there into Arizona, flash flood potential in parts of the southwestern states. So usually the monsoon season winds down, but it's ramping or at least holding its position here because of these tropical feeds that run through Baja, Cabo San Lucas. They were hit a few weeks ago. Western shoreline areas of Mexico, the Baja region, and northward from there. And 3 of these systems that will draw deep tropical moisture northward into the southwestern reaches of the country. And you'll see that on the 6 to 10 day outlook from the feds and our long range forecast as well. This week in agribusiness. The next 7 days, you can see that plume right out of the Eastern Pacific, just like the weather guy is talking about, right up to San Diego or east of there. That's a hilly country east of San Diego. So you get into there through Arizona, and you got that flash flood potential through New Mexico. Pretty good swath of moisture, by the way. Southern Canadian prairie for the spring grain fields. Rangelands, pasture lands out of the Dakotas through Big Sky Country, and a little corridor that some western and northwestern Corn Belt areas and parts of the Great Plains will come up with some meaningful rainfall. Most everyone else is probably a little overdone, but between Monday and Tuesday next week, there will be some rains that make their way across the eastern Corn Belt. You might get a quarter inch out of it, just enough to settle the dust, wreck the wash on the pickup truck of all the dust and stuff, and you're right back at it into a drier pattern. Monday through Wednesday next week, you can see some U-shaped configured winds winding their way out of the Gulf of Alaska through the Pacific Northwest, and by Thursday, Friday, back into California, the Pacific Northwest. These downstream, that's would be in our general direction here. Upper level winds come in first from the west northwest. They try to turn more south and southwest. You can see that H over Texas, the Gulf Coast. That's that summertime hot ridge. It's where it needs to be for the time of year, but it's showing signs it's going to return northward. And along with that California or West Coast weather system, there are still very mild to warm late summer-like days ahead, even as we get through probably the second and even third week of the month of October. Otherwise, it's high pressure, a cool off back to temperatures close to seasonal norms. And I dare say there might be a little frost in the northern parts of North Dakota, north of Minnesota, upper Michigan, far northern Wisconsin. Inconsequential in the big picture, just a change of the seasons. And you can see by Thursday, Friday, another system dropping into the plains as high pressure moves off to the east, and another warm up for the plains and Corn Belt locales. Look at these temperatures this afternoon, pushing 90 into the upper Midwest, 85 at Madison, I would think. We get some cooling by Monday into the plains, 50s and 60s there, still 80 or higher. Board of Trade onto the east. And then by the time we get to Thursday, Friday next week, quick push to some 60s and 70s in the eastern Corn Belt. And then we're pushing back into the 70s into the northern and central plains, and probably some 80-degree weather to follow after that. Again, we are loaded up with nothing but warm air, and this 6 to 10 day outlook continues with the main jet stream to the north and west, buckled across the western states. A lot of action through the Gulf of Alaska and across and through Siberia. So the cold air is mounting, but just not the right setup to get any of that to come southward anytime soon. Big warm up underway as we approach move through the second week of the month of October. Temperatures about normal into the far eastern Corn Belt areas. And again, no need to rush it, push it. If you get a rain delay in there, you'll be back at it within a couple of days. And otherwise, most of the action is the outer bands of maybe something from a tropical feature or two in the eastern states, nothing up through the Corn Belt. And look at Sarah, that plume of moisture in the southwestern reaches of the country. That is the winding down of the monsoon setup and the tropical features that may not necessarily move all the way northward, but will send their tropical feed northward through Baja, California, and western parts of Mexico on northward. Next live stream is the 15th. We probably have just laid everything out, what we've just talked about. We'll continue to talk about. Don't have any big major asterisks coming into the weather office here going forward, probably through November. So if you're not done by Thanksgiving, that's on you from a harvest standpoint, not on Sarah and I. And maybe a little more character building as we get deeper into wintertime, and hopefully more liquid moisture before anything to get some recharge going. Apart from that, I hear we have an football series going on. I'm going to make the attempt to get up there to Milwaukee this weekend, and hope you have a nice, safe trip back from Madison.
Thank you so much. And we do want to recognize our sponsor of our weather segment, Strauss Workwear. Strauss is family owned, a global company, third generation. They design, manufacture technical workwear and footwear for farmers, builders, and craftsmen. It's a tool you wear. So Greg, appreciate you tuning in and giving us an update. And we thank all of our audience here for tuning in as well. See you later. Thank you.
Take care.